Hello and good morning. Welcome to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. So we are going over the book, How to Have Power or Confidence and Power in Dealing with People. We're on chapter 6 today. So before we jump into that, we're going to go ahead and invite some people onto here. Alrighty. Just sending a couple more invites here.
Okay, we got them all done. Mary Cooper's here, Benny Bull's here. What's up, sir? I was just going to send out I'll let you do that.
What were you doing?
It'll update here in a minute. But anyway, I always kind of tag a bunch of people in this. So today we're on chapter 6 of How to Have Confidence and Power in Dealing with People. And chapter 6 is how to use 3 big secrets for attracting people. If you want to attract people to what you're doing, Tony, gosh, I can't read. Tony, what's up, sir? So what is the secret to attracting an attractive personality? We've all known them. Those people who can just seem to attract customers, attract friends, attract recruits. I've got a couple friends that are just like sponsoring machines. It's almost like they're magnetic. The people who are like looking to do this actually seek them out and find them. We say that people are drawn to such a personality, or he draws people to him, magnetic. So what are these people doing? Are they putting like a T-bone steak or a $100 bill on their back and walking around waiting for people to chase them down? No, that's not exactly what it is. But there are a couple things that people are doing. So we're going to go into a few of these techniques. He says there are 3 basic hungers that all humans begin to have. You might call them triple A. So these all start with A. These are the A's you want to remember. And not the A you're thinking of. It's not an A. No. With understanding. The first one is acceptance. Acceptance is a vitamin. It says we all hunger to be accepted as we are. We all want somebody we can relax with. Someone we can let our hair down and basically take off our shoes with. Very few of us are brave enough to be ourselves completely when dealing with the general world. Most people put on a mask and kind of try to, change who they are. Dakota's here. What's up, sir? So, but we like to have somebody that we can basically be ourselves with. Someone who, we can afford to be ourselves with. Someone who's not going to judge us, not going to point out all of our flaws and tell us what's wrong. And he talks about this. He said the critical fault-finding type person who always sees where others fall short and can usually also suggest the remedy. So this is somebody who's always pointing out what's wrong. Is never going to be stamped by crowds rushing or trampled. It says stampeded. I cannot read. I'm thinking of what I think he's saying instead of reading what the word was. Stampeded. So basically, you're not going to get run over, and people aren't going to come find you if you find fault with them and tell them what's wrong. I do have friends that want to point out every misspelling. I do have friends that want to point out every grammar mistake. You're basically seen as an asshole if you do that. People don't like you, for those of you who don't know that. When you're pointing out what's wrong, well, you should have worn a different shirt. You could have combed your hair different. You could have done this. You could have shut your mouth. Because you're not winning friends and influencing people doing what you're doing. Is there a nice way to put that to people? Not really. The people who do this think they're helping. That's the worst part. They think they're helping, and they think they're winning people over. Oh, people want to be straightened out. No, actually, they don't. Now, if somebody comes to you and asks for, the information, it's different. So, strangely enough, the people who accept people and basically just accept them for who they are the ones who basically have the most power. And he goes into kind of talking about married, when people are married and they compliment each other, they actually, like to go home. And then he also kind of goes into, you can always tell a person who, if they're self-doubting at work and they're self-doubting, on their job, and they're self-doubting in appointments, and they're self-doubting. He goes, I will bet that there's somebody self-doubting at home that's driving that. Hi, Shamala. So, if people really practice acceptance, we'd soon be out of business completely. That's one of the the How to Win Friends and Influence People. The guys who teach human relations. They're like, if people actually just accepted people, we'd be out of business. It'd be over, because everybody would get along and we wouldn't have a job. It says, how do you make your marriage basically come true? And that's where he goes into detail about one of the doctors kind of talking about how to build the other person up. It says emotional acceptance does not mean lowering your ideals or lowering your standards. It just means you're going to accept the person for how they are. He said, there is those, during most people's vows, and, everybody uses different stuff now, but during most people's vows, it says for better or worse. They're like, if you really followed that, I accept this person for better or worse, rather than I only accept this person when they're better, is it going to work out so well? So acceptance is a two-edged sword. One of the tragedies of our society is that the need for acceptance works against society as well as for it. Many teenage gangs that are basically springing up all over the country. What's funny is, this was put together in 1950, and he's talking about all the gangs popping up. Thank goodness this guy's no longer with us, because he'd turn on the TV and be like, I need to rewrite my book. Many teenage gangs that are springing up all over the country, for example, are no doubt due in large to the fact that these boys, these kids, who are not accepted in any other places in society, do not attain some personal significance, some sense of belonging, though the acceptance of the members of the gang. So basically, they're only being accepted when they're in and around the people who believe what they believe, think how they think, and do what they do. David Roder's here. What's up, sir? Acceptance, simple answer, yes. So he says how to make your significant successful. He's like, you have to accept them for where they're at. He's like the person that goes home and is accepted, and you talk and you laugh and you joke. Those people get along. Those people succeed. He goes, the people who don't succeed are the people who go home and get criticized, condemned, or told what they're doing wrong. Somebody's always picking at what they're doing. Now, there's a difference between joking about some stuff and coming out across mean. He says he might have, added that acceptance not only gives a person a dose of self-confidence, but also gives a person a dose of human kindness. Kindness because you are overlooking some of the flaws of things that aren't done perfect, aren't done well, aren't done to your standard. But if you basically hold people to that, you're going to be in trouble. So acceptance is the first one. The second one is approval. The second magic A that everyone hungers for is approval. Approval goes a little further than acceptance. Acceptance is mostly negative in comparison. We accept the other person with their faults and shortcomings and still basically accept their friendship. But approval means something actually more positive. it goes beyond just tolerating a person's faults, and find something positive that we can like. So you're actually picking out what you do like when you accept somebody. It says you can always find something to approve of in the other person, and you can always find something to disapprove of. It depends on what you're looking for. If you are negative personality type by nature, you will always look for flaws, always on the lookout to disapprove of something. If you're positive, you can basically find what's positive and always look out for it. Bess is here. Hello. Safe travels today. A cure for incorrigible children. It says the children were supposed to be uncontrollable. So there was this study, uncontrollable. He said he was moody at first and wouldn't even talk to a psychologist. Simply, seemed to be off the handle, blah, blah, blah. The psychologist started looking for something he could approve of. He found several things, and the boy basically craved the acceptance, craved the approval. So basically paid attention to the person. That usually helps a lot. He says, he said you can crave things better than he was talking about he was able to carve things out of sand and carve things out of stone and carve things, like he was always drawing basically, and he's like, man, you can do that better than anybody else. He said, well, to make a long story short, as soon as he found things to approve of, basically this kid became completely compliant and completely able to follow the rules. The problem was they weren't being paid attention to, they weren't being accepted, and they weren't being approved of, so they were crying out for what? They were crying out for attention. Go out of your way to approve. We're all hungry for approval. And it doesn't have to be something big in order to satisfy that hunger for approval. It just has to be something. So praise. It says praise, whether it's the stockbroker or the stock boy. 3, appreciation is magic. Appreciation. Another basic hunger is the hunger for appreciation. The word appreciate really means to raise in value, and it is the opposite of depreciate, appreciate. It says, which means to basically lower in value. We're always looking for people who will raise us in value rather than lower us in value. So what does that sound like? That sounds like John Maxwell to me. He's always talking about raising people up. He's always talking about empowering people. He's always talking about, raising the standard, raising the bar. So what he's doing is he's always adding value. That's what this is about. Appreciation is adding value. Telling people, not just complimenting people, but telling people what they're good at. And then on top of that, adding value to them. And this is going to help you. So it's almost like helping them see the future of what's going to happen by doing the right things. It says, we value our agents highly. He said, and he will let them know we value them highly. So valuing you can kind of do in a bunch of different ways. You can value somebody, financially by, saying, hey, you're worth more money, and giving them a raise, or, giving them a bonus, or being able to bring something to them that will help them. It says other people are valuable to you too. It says stop and consider how valuable other people are to you, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your children, whether it's your boss, your employees, your customers, your sales reps, your team. It says emphasize their value in your own mind, then figure out little ways to let the other person know that you value them highly. We talked the other day about being able to give out personal development. Being able to give out personal development books. Hey, I thought of you, I know you're really into this. I know you're growing. I see how you treat people. This would be a really cool book, or audio, or whatever you're going to give them. Give it a little thought, and you can think of ways to do more. It says, don't keep people waiting if you can help it. So he's like, don't try to think of the perfect way to do it. Just start doing it. It says, if you have a caller to whom you can see immediately, acknowledge his presence and let him know that you will be with him as soon as possible. So this is something like acceptance, approval, and then appreciation. This is something I see people do wrong all the time in restaurants. From the outside, I see people do this. They end up, there's a line waiting, and rather than saying, hey guys, we see you, we'll be right with you, they just completely ignore and get more and more pissed off. That doesn't help the situation. Basically what they're saying is you're not even important enough for me to acknowledge you because I'm so busy trying to do what I'm doing. But you'll notice the restaurants that are really, really good at pointing out, hey, we do see you, we're trying to get a table ready, or we're trying to get this ready. For those of you who are in places where you can still go out. Indianapolis, we live right on the line of two counties. The county that we actually reside in still has, all the rules of martial law. And then the county that's just north of us, like 5 minutes, has none of that. So we don't actually spend any money inside the county. So because the people who are north of us actually do this, and they point out, hey, no problem, we can seat you right away, we'll get to you right away, super friendly. And he said, thank people, treat people as special. Number 4 is worth a little attention and a comment. One of the most deflating, depreciating things in the world is not to be given, is to be given the routine treatment rather than being treated as an individual. Saying hi. So a couple things you can do. How to Win Friends and Influence People teaches you that. You can look at people, that would help. You can smile, and you can also call people by their name. By calling people by their name, period. Just by calling people by their name. That's one of those things that helps out so much. And then being able to compliment that person. By using their name and complimenting them, you'll go farther with that than anything that I can, any monetary thing. You can get farther with the compliments and using their name. It says, don't basically talk station to station, talk person to person. Hey, I see you guys over there. No, I see this person, this person, this person, this person. You guys did well. We like to be singled out, not considered one of the mob. So John Maxwell talks about walking slowly through the crowd. He walks slowly through the crowd so that way he can say hi to each individual person, compliment them, catch up on what's going on. Take lesson from Mother Nature. It says, take a lesson from the flowers. He says, they know how to attract the bees. They want the bees to pollinate them, so they need the bees. But instead of, pleading, scolding, or, coercing, the flower just puts out a few drops of nectar. So basically, that's what compliments are. Compliments are basically, hey, I want more of that. I'll come to you next time. You can always tell the person who compliments people when they walk into a room of a lot of people. People will always flock to the people who compliment people, and people will always try to avoid the people who are negative and pointing out everything that's wrong. There's an old saying, in fact, that honey attracts more flies than vinegar. I've heard honey attracts bears, but that too. It often is interpreted to mean that you should basically sweet talk your way to what you want. Now, there's a difference between a genuine compliment and BS flattery. Make sure you know the difference. This isn't about giving out false hope and, fake compliments. It's about actually looking at people. Now, here's what I found. What you have to do is you actually have to be a good person to be able to give out these compliments. I found that it's very hard to compliment people when you don't have any self-confidence yourself. When you feel horrible about yourself, you don't feel like building other people up. So one of the things you need to do is work on yourself the most. Work on yourself the most and your self-confidence the most. How do you do that? Get around the people who are, confident, who compliment you. And then read the book so that way you're okay with who you are. Because if you're not okay with who you are, a lot of times that's where people go, the wrong way. And I mean go the wrong way is they hang out with the wrong people. They start doing things that are destructive. And really what's crazy is they don't even know this. Most of the time when you're doing that stuff, you're self-destructing, and it's basically a cry for attention. You're trying to escape the world. Some people escape the world through substance, whether that be illegal substance or, sweets, food, whatever. But it's
alcohol.
a game. Well, that's an illegal substance. Well, that's like legal in some places, in some cases, depending on where you're at.
Yep.
But that's definitely one of them. But that's where a lot of that, from what I've read, because I haven't partaken in that. But people have an addiction to, that's where addiction comes from. A lot of times it stems from a self-esteem where you're trying to mask, you're trying to fix, you're trying to overcome, but it's also a cry for attention. So in a lot of cases, a cry for attention. So a quick rundown on chapter 6. It says, the real secret of attractive personality is to offer other people the food they're hungry for, bacon. If you just offer bacon, or, no, I'm kidding, it's acceptance. It says use the triple A. Acceptance first, is the easiest one. You just accept people for who they are, what they do, what's going on. Treat people well would be another way to say it. The next one is approval. Approving of somebody. Look to approve of the other person. So again, you're trying to find out what they do good, what they compliment, and then appreciation means to raise their value. Raise their value. Hey, you're good at this. You know what? I bet you're good at a lot of other things. So you're kind of putting out there an expectation that if you're good at this, I know you're good at other things. Now they want to be good at other things. Why? Because they want to get appreciation, approval, and acceptance on those things too. So that is a wrap. That's chapter 6 of this book. Tomorrow is Friday, and we'll be going over chapter 7. These books are flying by. By the way, I said this yesterday, but our next book is Talent is Never Enough by John Maxwell. Talent is Never Enough. We'll be on that book by next week. That's crazy. Is there 10 chapters here or more? I can't remember. Part 6. Chapter 12. So, no. We'll be on this book in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we'll be starting John Maxwell, Talent is Never Enough, so you might want to go grab that. And then the book after that is Leading at a Higher Level by, I believe, Dr. Dennis Waitley. So, appreciate everybody. What else?
I think that's it. So we will see you guys tomorrow.
Manana.